In this video I want to tell a little bit about the two Planeswalker decks that were just released as part of the new Throne of Eldraine set for Magic the Gathering. I picked them up at my local friendly game store last Sunday. I played the heck out of them both in person and then on Magic the Gathering Arena, which I recently discovered, and well, I think they're fun decks, and I want to tell a little bit about them. They're part of this set, which is inspired by fairy tales. In a certain sense, you know, the original fantasy genre. One almost wonders why it took so long for Magic the Gathering to really delve into that rich mythology, but here we do. Here we have it. We have Oko and Rowan. Rowan, the fierce spark mage that uses red and white energies, and Oko, the trickster that uses blue and green. Let's start with Rowan. And the original set, the original quote-unquote thingy, the original box, you will find a pre-made deck so you can play right away, and then there will be the two boosters here. And what I do, I keep the standard set as is, then I put the poster that you also find as a divider, and then some cards that I may want to add, but I want to protect the integrity of the deck. Important thing here, you find this token here, which is used to mark the cards that are going on an adventure, because who doesn't want to go on an adventure? This is a new idea that is introduced in this set. Basically, there are some cards that have two functions, and they can be cast for two different things at two different costs. If you cast the creature just to summon it, it goes in the battlefield as normal. Otherwise, you can cast it for its adventure effect, which usually is a lower cost, usually is as a sorcery or an instant. You cast it, you resolve that effect, but then instead of discarding, like say an instant, it goes on an adventure, so it's traveling around, and then you can cast it from your adventure area for its cost to summon it. Basically, they're creatures that you can use as a sorcery or instant or an enchantment and or as a creature. This red and white deck has one of the strongest themes, I'd say recurring themes, are knights and flying creatures. And so there are a lot of synergies that go around that idea. We got a griffin, we got Scorching Fire, which is always nice. We have Rowan's Battle Guard, so one of these minions that is pretty good per se, but pretty expensive for what you get, unless your Planeswalker is already out there, and then this becomes pretty murderous. Knights, again, the knight keyword will be very important. When the acclaimed contender enters the battlefield, if you control another knight, there you go. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a knight or equipment or legendary artifact. One of the many synergies that you will see around knights. And here we go, the first adventure card. This is a perfect example. You can cast it as an instant, and then you resolve this effect, and after that you put it in the adventure area, and then you can later summon it for this cost and put it into your battlefield. Then we have the Winds card, Crags, gives you some life when it enters the battlefield. More flying people. Inspiring Veteran, yes, Knight. Other knights you control get +1/+1, which is good when you have a lot of them. Here you have the Expendable Knight. Might be venerable, but I don't know why, because it's not that strong, and basically you're just waiting for the poor venerable knight to die, so that then you can inspire someone else. We already have the Inspiring Veteran. Ardenvale Tactician. You can use this effect here, very good and pretty cheap for what you get, and then you open a possibility for some nasty attack and or cast it as a creature, and then you got a flyer there that also has a knight, so that goes together with everything else. Our Rowan Fearless Spark Mage, there she is. Up to 1 creature, gets +3/+0, and first strike until the end of the turn. Pretty good, pretty good. This is as you're building towards an engine where you can spend a lot of mana to cast more things. -2. Rowan deals 1 damage to each up to 2 target creatures. Those creatures can't block. Again, works in synergy with her knight. She's weakening and blocking enemies as you launch your main attack. And gain control of all creatures until the end of turn, untap them, gain haste. This is one of those planeswalkers that has, frankly, sort of like quote-unquote underwhelming underwhelming average early effects. It's okay, it's fine. But then, basically, the idea is that if not stopped, then it has a game-winning effect. Weapon Rack will produce +1/+1 counters that you place on your creatures. We're ready. So the Ringmark Knight who likes to run but can't block. Another flying creature, another knight, no keywords, so no special effects, but it's a knight, so it goes with all those other things. I like this card a lot. The Joust. Sometimes the opponent has a card that is really causing some effects and they're using a lot of other creatures to protect that one and you really want to block that. To say it's producing an enchantment. When you challenge them to a Joust, which is a target creature you control and one that they control and that they are trying to protect, your creature becomes stronger, and if it's a knight, and then also, which chances are, and then you're also challenging them to a duel and then possibly duly and scientifically slaughtering them. The Human Knight, then it's good in attack, not so much in defense, but it's one of those cards that summons, calls up the Planeswalker, because you can look for Rowan the Fearless Mage. Giant Killer, a very good distracted creature with power of 4 or greater, so pretty good for the cost, and then later you can turn him into a little kid. That's the story of the Giant Killer. Got lucky that day, 15 minutes of monster slaying, and then he was a kid. The Youthful Knight, early game card with some first strike, Griffins, and I think we got really, you got a gist of what we have here. These are the main, yeah, these are the main effects. Oh, we also got this little cute guy here. That's not bad. It's not going to be the card why you want this deck. So this is a serviceable, reliable deck. I would almost say a beginner's deck because it doesn't have anything too fancy. The synergies are pretty obvious. The knights work together to make each other strong. And then what we have here is Oko the Trickster, a little trickier to play with some, again, interesting synergies with effects that will produce extra cards, with effects that will... why was he there? Oh, yeah, because this is another version of Oko, not the one they find in the deck, that I find in one of the boosters. Hooray, so I put it there. Want to have a look at it? Just feel free to pause and read. Food tokens. Some creatures use food tokens in this little universe here. The Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider. Get it? So, okay, not particularly powerful combat-wise for what you get, but flying, and when she enters the battlefield, you draw a card. And that's good. That's very good. Another adventure card. The Treefolk Druid can be a nasty monster if cast for the powerful, for the high cost, can be a good supporter if you use it to generate counters, but again, we need to go on an adventure. The adventure card, this dude, target creature gets +2/+2, and then this is the combat capability if you cast it from here. Just to clarify, remember, you can cast it directly from your hand for either effect. It's just that if it's for this effect, goes in the battlefield. If it's for this effect, goes on adventure and can later be cast for the main thing. Hawk of Hospitality, because if you're a Planeswalker, you want a ways of calling your Planeswalker. This is a little bit of a tricky thing, because creatures you control have 3 and 3, which sounds great, but sometimes your creatures are stronger than that. But still, you get to summon Oko. Oko's Friends, just flying bodyguards, can be useful, you know, to prevent dying. Return of the Wild Speaker. As you can see, it manipulates cards, or it can manipulate strength in the battlefield. Expensive but powerful. Little pixie that can act as a mana maker. And then Oko himself. I like this Planeswalker a lot because, well, it's really fun to use it. First, he can make his own friend stronger. Say you take the Tomb Raider or another little pixie and you turn it after a couple of turns into like a 8/8. And then, trickier thing, he becomes that creature. Until the end of the turn, Oko the Trickster becomes a copy of a target creature you control. So you make a flying 8/8, and then you got 2 of them for no cost. Also is unbeatable. So that's awesome. This is a great thing. And maybe because of that, you don't really need to pile up things. I mean, you're going to do this and you're going to reach that. But to me, this synergy here is the most interesting thing. Although, of course, getting creatures that have 10/10 and trample for the final charge is also good. I like Oko. He's a really fun. It's not just about power, at least for me. It's about how fun playing a Planeswalker is, and this guy's a lot of fun. Giant turtle that people can ride on. Not a great fighter, but whenever it attacks, another creature becomes unblockable. They're sneaking through the enemy lines by sitting there on the giant turtle. This little guy, oh, so cute. Little, unless you don't want to see him mad, because then he becomes a 10/10. Charm Sleeve, this is very good. You got several of them. Will simply prevent the opponent creature from tapping. That's really useful. Like several games that I played on Magic the Gathering Arena, I have been saved by massive use of those against people that had pre-constructed decks. Well, they constructed them, they clearly tweaked them, they had some nice synergies. But if you keep blocking those, charming them, putting them to sleep, or turning into frogs, well, those great synergies. So basically, the Oko deck, I was able just out of the box, and with the Magic the Gathering Arena, as marketed, I was able actually to survive encounters against carefully, individually crafted decks based on synergies that frogification and sleep completely disrupted. The Keeper of Fables, I love this card. Again, allows you to get extra cards if your non-human creatures deal combat damage to a player. And with all those flyers, even those Tomb Raiders, they're just, poking the enemy, but you get extra cards. Later in the game, when this guy's likely to come up, and if you have 2 of them, that can create basically an almost unblockable engine. So yeah, the synergies here are not just that they make each other stronger, but they can block the opponent and they can give you extra cards. So much so that you have somebody who feeds off extra cards. This Fairy Vandal here becomes +1/+1, or increases in strength whenever you draw your second card. So you see the synergies here. Remember the Tomb Raider? The Tomb Raider then will draw a card, will make this one stronger, and then maybe this one gives damage, so the Keeper of Fables makes you draw a card, and, well, that's awesome. So that's an interesting synergy there. Frogify. I think, again, more or less you get the gist here. We get, again, Charm Sleep, a nice special land that makes you feel better. Oh, and this one, this actually is pretty interesting. It has Flash, Reach, and also whenever a non-human creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay X, and when you do, you put counters on it. Later in the game, you have a lot of lands. You play, yes, the little humble Tomb Raider, and then this can become a lot more powerful. Really, really like this deck. Frankly, I enjoy the Rowan deck too. Also, I'm a completionist. I like to collect Planeswalker decks. I like to collect pre-made decks. Basically, playing with pre-made decks is 99% of all the Magic the Gathering that I play, because I don't have time to create those super mega fancy decks that you create, and good for you. I just like to have good decks. I don't have to win any world competition, but I have fun playing with pre-made decks. Of these two decks, Oko is just more fun to play, in my opinion. Rowan is a perfectly serviceable, perfectly reliable deck, especially if you're playing with a young player, maybe almost as an intro deck, but Oko is just better. And these are the two new decks for Magic the Gathering from the Throne of Eldraine set.